You know that special kind of stupid you feel when you realize the boring work party your fiancé kept you away from for 3 years was actually just his way of keeping his 2 girlfriends from meeting? Yeah, that kind of stupid. Let me paint you a picture. Friday, December 15th, standing in the marble lobby of the Savannah Convention Center, wearing the little black dress I'd bought specifically for this surprise appearance. My fiancé, Jasper Landry, had spent 3 years convincing me that his company's holiday party was the corporate equivalent of watching paint dry. Just spreadsheets and sales talk, babe. You'd hate it. And I, Ramona Chandler, professional nutritionist and apparently professional idiot, believed him every single time. But here's the thing about lies. They're only good until someone posts an Instagram story. My client Blythe had been at last year's party. Posted pictures of herself in a ball gown, champagne fountain in the background, live jazz band on a stage that definitely didn't scream boring Tuesday meeting. The caption? Best company party ever. Thanks for the invite, Jasper. Jasper. My Jasper. Who'd told me last year's party was just pizza in the break room. So this year, when he fed me the same line about how deadly dull the party would be, I smiled, nodded, waited until he left our apartment in his best suit. Then I got dressed, called an Uber, and decided to see just how boring this party really was. The convention center was lit up like Christmas and New Year's had a baby. String lights everywhere. An actual ice sculpture of the company logo. Through the glass doors, I could see women in cocktail dresses and men in suits that cost more than my monthly rent. A far cry from the casual Friday vibe Jasper had described. I walked in. Nobody stopped me. Why would they? I looked like I belonged. I just didn't know yet that I absolutely did not. The ballroom was gorgeous. High ceilings, decorated tables, a buffet that would make my nutritionist heart weep with its complete disregard for balanced macros. And there, on the dance floor, I spotted him. Jasper. My fiancé of 3 years. The man who'd proposed to me on Tybee Beach with a ring we'd picked out together. The man I shared a bed with 4 nights a week because he claimed he needed to stay at his place the other nights to be closer to work for early meetings. He was dancing. Close. Too close. With a woman in a red dress. Her hands were on his shoulders. His hands were on her waist. They were swaying to some jazz number, and he was looking at her the way he used to look at me before we got comfortable. Before we became established. Before the relationship apparently got boring enough that he needed entertainment elsewhere. I stood there frozen. Then a woman materialized next to me, holding a champagne flute and smiling like we were old friends. "Oh, hi, you must be with the new marketing team." She was perky, the kind of perky that makes you want to check if she's actually human or just really committed to the company culture. "Actually," I heard myself say, voice surprisingly steady, "I'm Jasper Landry's fiancé." The woman's smile didn't just fade, it evaporated. Her champagne flute tilted dangerously. "Fiancé? As in, engaged to be married fiancé? Is there another kind?" She looked at me, looked at the dance floor, back at me. Her face cycled through confusion, realization, and then something that looked like genuine horror. "But Jasper's been dating Vera for almost 2 years. Everyone here knows about them. They're like the office couple." The words hit me like I'd been slapped with a frozen fish. Unexpected. Absurd. Somehow insulting on multiple levels. "Vera?" I managed. "Vera Sullivan, marketing coordinator, the woman he's dancing with right now." Perky lady was now horrified lady. "Oh my God, you're serious? You're really his fiancé?" I held up my left hand. The engagement ring caught the light beautifully. 3 years on my finger. Apparently 3 years too many. "Wanna meet her?" I didn't wait for an answer. I walked across that ballroom like I was walking to my own execution, except I was both the condemned and the executioner. Every step felt surreal. The music was too loud. The laughter around me was too bright. Everything had that dreamlike quality where you know something terrible is about to happen, but you can't stop moving forward. Jasper saw me when I was about 10 feet away. I watched the color drain from his face in real time. Watched his hands drop from Vera's waist like she'd suddenly turned into hot coal. Watched him mouth my name. No sound coming out. Vera followed his gaze. Turned. Saw me. smiled, because why wouldn't she? She had no idea who I was. Yet. Hi, I said, arriving in their little bubble of betrayal. I'm Ramona, Jasper's fiancée, of 3 years. I held up my hand again, showed her the ring Jasper had picked out at Bailey's Jewelers downtown, the ring we'd toasted with champagne at the old Pink House, the ring that apparently meant absolutely nothing. Vera's smile disappeared faster than free samples at Costco. Fiancé? Her voice went up an octave. She turned to Jasper, who looked like he was trying to decide between explaining and just straight up running for the exit. Jasper, what is she talking about? This is a misunderstanding, Jasper started, which had to be the weakest opening line in the history of caught cheaters everywhere. A misunderstanding? I laughed. Actually laughed. Is that what we're calling 3 years of engagement now? A misunderstanding? Vera was shaking her head, backing up slightly. No, this doesn't make sense. Jasper told me he had a bad breakup 3 years ago, that he was single when we met. We've been together for almost 2 years. Interesting math, I said, because 3 years ago he proposed to me, and every night he doesn't spend at your place, I'm guessing he's at mine. Or did you think he just really loved his apartment and needed to sleep there alone for personal growth? People were staring now. The music hadn't stopped, but a circle of spectators had definitely formed. Nothing brings a corporate holiday party to a standstill quite like a live confrontation between a fiancé and a girlfriend who just found out she's the other woman. Or maybe that I was the other woman? The hierarchy of betrayal was getting confusing. Jasper reached for my arm. Ramona, please, let me explain somewhere private. I pulled away. Explain what, exactly? That you've been living a double life for 2 years? That every time you said the holiday party was boring, you were really just protecting your carefully constructed lie? That I'm apparently the side chick in my own engagement? Vera was crying now. Not the pretty single tear down the cheek crying you see in movies. The ugly kind. The mascara-running, breath-hitching kind that told me she genuinely had no idea. Which somehow made this whole situation even more grotesque. I didn't know, she kept saying. I swear to God I didn't know. I believe you, I said. And I meant it. We were both victims of the same man's inability to just pick a lane. He's very convincing, isn't he? Let me guess. He told you he needed space sometimes? That he valued his independence? That rushing into living together would ruin the relationship? Her face confirmed everything. He told me the same thing 3 years ago, I continued. Except I thought we were building toward something. Apparently, he was building toward duplicity with better time management. The crowd around us had grown. I spotted phones out. Of course. Nothing says happy holidays like watching someone's life implode in real time. This would be on the company Slack by midnight. Probably already was. Jasper tried again. Both of you, please, can we just step outside and talk about this like adults? Like adults? Vera's voice cracked. You want to talk about adult behavior? You've been lying to both of us for 2 years. 23 months, I corrected. Because if we're doing this, we might as well be accurate. If you started dating him in January 2 years ago, and we got engaged 3 years ago this past August, that's 23 months of overlap. Almost 2 full years of him playing house with both of us. A man in a suit who looked important stepped forward. Older guy, expensive watch. The kind of presence that screamed, upper management. Jasper, is this true? You've been engaged this entire time you've been dating Vera? Jasper's face went from pale to red. Mr. Whitmore, this is personal. I don't think you made it professional when you brought it to the company holiday party. Mr. Whitmore cut him off. Cold. Clinical. The voice of a man calculating liability. We'll discuss this Monday. Oh, this was delicious. Jasper wasn't just losing his girlfriends. He was potentially losing his job. The hits just kept coming, and I was here for every single one. Let me ask you something, Jasper, I said, my voice carrying across the silent ballroom. The jazz band had actually stopped playing now. Even they wanted to hear this. When you spent Thanksgiving with me and my family in Hilton Head, where did Vera think you were? He didn't answer. Didn't need to. His silence was confession enough. Vera made a sound like she'd been punched. Thanksgiving? You told me you were visiting your sick aunt in Atlanta. He doesn't have an aunt in Atlanta, I supplied helpfully. He has an uncle in Macon, but they haven't spoken in 5 years because of some football rivalry thing. Auburn versus Georgia. Very serious stuff. Christmas last year? Vera's voice was getting stronger now, anger burning through the tears. You said you had to work. He was with me in Charleston, I said. My parents' house. My mother made him a stocking. It's still hanging in her living room with his name on it. Jasper. Felt letters. Very festive. This was turning into the worst game of where was he really ever played. Every answer was a new betrayal. Every revelation was another layer of lies. I almost felt bad for Vera. Almost. But mostly I was riding a wave of vindictive satisfaction that I'd never experienced before, and probably never would again. A woman from the crowd called out, "What about the Labor Day weekend? He said he was at that sales conference in Miami." Jasper's head whipped around. "Ashley, not helping." "He was with me at my friend's lake house in Tennessee," I said. "Got a sunburn. Complained about it for a week." Vera was looking at Jasper like she'd never seen him before. Like he was a stranger wearing a Jasper mask. "You told me you were in Miami. You sent me pictures of the beach. Stock photos are a thing, Vera," I said gently. "I'm guessing he's pretty good with Photoshop by now. 3 years of practice will do that." 2 years, she whispered. 2 years of my life. 3 years of mine, I countered. And an engagement ring that apparently meant nothing. Jasper finally found his voice. "Ramona, I love you. I was going to tell you about Vera. I was trying to find the right time." "The right time?" I interrupted. "When? At our wedding?" "Oh, by the way, honey, funny story about my +1 bringing her own +1. Someone in the crowd laughed. Actual laughter. The tension broke slightly, and suddenly people weren't just watching a tragedy. They were watching entertainment. A train wreck they couldn't look away from. "I made a mistake," Jasper said, and he actually had the audacity to look sincere. "I got scared of commitment, and I handled it wrong." "You didn't handle it wrong," Vera cut him off. Her tears had stopped. Something harder had replaced them. "You're not scared of commitment. You committed to lying to both of us. That takes dedication, planning, effort. You're scared of being alone, and you're too selfish to choose, so you decided to have both." I looked at Vera with new respect. "Did we just become best friends?" "Don't push it," she said. But there was the ghost of a smile. "We might not be friends, but we were definitely united in our mutual hatred of the man standing between us." I turned back to Jasper. 3 years. 3 years of planning a future with someone who was literally planning a present with someone else. The apartment we were supposed to move into next year. The wedding we'd started planning for next June at Forsyth Park. The compromises I'd made. The friends' weddings we'd attended where he'd whispered, "That'll be us soon." All of it. Every single moment. Contaminated by the knowledge that he was whispering the same things to someone else. "I want my ring back," Vera said suddenly. I looked at her. "He gave you a ring. Promise ring. 6 months ago." She was already pulling it off her finger. "Said it was a placeholder until he was ready for the real thing." The real thing. While wearing my engagement ring, he'd given another woman a promise ring. The sheer audacity was almost impressive. Almost. I pulled my engagement ring off. 3 years on my finger, and it came off easier than I expected. Funny how something that felt so permanent could just slide away when you finally decided to let it go. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, holding the ring between 2 fingers. "I'm going to give you this ring back. Not because I'm noble or because I'm taking the high road, but because every time you look at it, I want you to remember this moment, this party, this crowd, the look on everyone's faces when they realized what you are." I didn't throw it at him. That would be dramatic, sure, but I'm not violent. I dropped it. Let it fall to the marble floor where it bounced twice before rolling under a decorated table. Let him crawl for it if he wanted it back. Vera looked at her promise ring, looked at Jasper, and then, in a move I'll remember for the rest of my life, she walked to the champagne fountain, dipped the ring in the top tier, and dropped it in her champagne glass. "For the memories," she said, and downed the entire glass, ring and all. Just kidding. She fished the ring out first. She's not stupid. But she did walk over to where Jasper stood and very calmly dropped it into his suit pocket. "We're done," she said, "professionally and personally. I'm requesting a transfer to the Atlanta office on Monday, and I'm putting in the request specifically citing hostile work environment created by you." Mr. Whitmore nodded approvingly. "I'll fast-track that transfer personally." The crowd was silent again, waiting, because this wasn't over. Not yet. 3 years, I said softly, just to Jasper now. "You could have just broken up with me, could have been honest, could have done literally anything except this." "I'm sorry," he whispered. "No," I said. "You're not sorry. You're caught. There's a difference." I turned to leave, stopped, turned back. "Oh, and Jasper? I'm keeping the cat. You can have the Keurig. Seems like a fair trade since apparently that's about what our relationship was worth to you anyway." I wish I could say I went home that night and cried into a pint of Ben & Jerry's like a normal person going through a breakup. But rage is a surprisingly energizing emotion, and I had 3 years of rent receipts, shared expenses, and documented lies to sort through. Also, I'm a nutritionist. I don't keep ice cream in my house. The irony of my life choices was not lost on me as I ate raw cookie dough straight from the tube at 2 in the morning. Saturday morning, I woke up to 47 text messages. Jasper, naturally, begging for another chance. My mother, who'd somehow already heard through the Savannah gossip network that moves faster than fiber optic internet. And 3 messages from Vera. The first one said, "I can't believe I'm texting you." The second, "But I found something you need to see." The third, "Coffee? Forsyth Park Cafe, 10 a.m.? I stared at those messages for a solid 5 minutes. Meet with my fiancé's girlfriend? Ex-girlfriend? The woman who'd unknowingly been sharing my man like a badly managed timeshare? Every logical bone in my body said no. I texted back, "I'll be there at 10. Logic is overrated when you're running on spite and raw cookie dough. Vera was already there when I arrived, looking like she'd slept about as well as I had. Dark circles under her eyes, hair in a messy bun, wearing yoga pants and a hoodie that said, Savannah Marathon 2023. She had a laptop open and 2 coffees waiting. "I got you a latte," she said. "Jasper mentioned once you liked oat milk." "Of course he did." I sat down. "He probably told you my coffee order while telling me yours. Maximum efficiency in his dual life management." She almost smiled. Almost. I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about all the lies. So I started looking through our shared accounts. We have had a joint credit card. Just for dates and trips, you know. Keep track of couple expenses. Let me guess. The credit card statement is a greatest hits of his lies? Better. She turned the laptop toward me. It's a GPS tracking log of every place he used that card. Because apparently I set up location tracking when we got it and forgot about it. We both did. Including him. I looked at the screen. A map of Georgia and surrounding states, dotted with pins. Red pins and blue pins. Red is where he told me he was, Vera explained. Blue is where the card was actually used. Oh, this was beautiful. This was art. Miami Beach Conference showed a blue pin at a lake house in Tennessee. Sick Aunt in Atlanta showed a blue pin at a Hilton Head resort. Working late at the office showed approximately 30 blue pins at my apartment complex. He's been stupid and sloppy, I said slowly, my brain already spinning. This is documented proof of systematic lying. It gets better. Vera pulled up a spreadsheet. An actual color-coded spreadsheet. I'm in marketing, remember? Data analysis is literally my job. I cross-referenced his credit card statements with his work calendar that he shared with me and the company calendar that's public to all employees. And he's been using sick days and vacation days to spend time with you while telling me he was working. And he's been using work trips that don't appear anywhere on the company calendar to spend time with me. I leaned back. So he's not just a cheater. He's been defrauding his employer. Potentially. Vera's smile was sharp now. Vindictive. I was starting to really like her. Remember Mr. Whitmore? The CEO who looked ready to fire Jasper on the spot? I did some digging. Turns out the company has a strict ethics policy. Misrepresenting time cards, false expense reports, any dishonesty regarding company time or resources, it's grounds for immediate termination. You think he's been filing false expense reports? I think he's been filing for reimbursement for trips he said were work-related that absolutely were not. She pulled up another document. See this? Company reimbursement for a client dinner in Atlanta on November 10th. Except the credit card shows he was actually at a restaurant in Charleston. With me, I said. November 10th was my birthday. He took me to Peninsula Grill. He charged the company for your birthday dinner. Vera's voice was flat. And probably mine too. Want a check? We spent the next hour going through records. My birthday. Vera's birthday. Our anniversary, both of them apparently. Valentine's Day dinners. Random weekends. All filed as business expenses. All reimbursed by his company. This is fraud, I said finally. Like actual criminal fraud. It's definitely fireable. Vera closed the laptop. Question is, what do we do with this information? I thought about it. Thought about Jasper's face last night. The way he'd tried to play victim. To make it seem like he'd made a mistake instead of orchestrating an elaborate con for 2 years. The way he'd texted me this morning with, "Baby, please, we can work through this. We forward it to HR, I said. Anonymously. Let the company decide what to do with their ethics policy. That's it? Vera looked disappointed. That's your revenge? A corporate email? Oh, honey, I smiled. That's not revenge. That's step 1. Revenge requires planning. Strategy. And I know things about Jasper that you don't, like the fact that his lease is up next month and he was planning to move in with me. Into an apartment I've been paying 2/3 of the rent for because he said his student loans were killing him. He told me he was debt-free. Vera's eye twitched. Said he'd been financially responsible in his 20s. He's been financially responsible by having 2 girlfriends subsidize his lifestyle. I pulled out my phone. I've been paying for groceries, utilities, streaming services, his gym membership, because we were building a future together, and what's mine is yours, right? He split everything 50-50 with me. Vera was getting it now. Made a big deal about being equitable partners. So he's been living beyond his means by having both of us pay for different parts of his life. The picture was becoming clearer. He's not just a cheater. He's a con artist with a mediocre credit score. Vera laughed. Actually laughed. What do you know about his credit score? He applied for the mortgage pre-approval with me 6 months ago. For the house we were supposedly buying next year. His credit score is 620. He got denied. He told me he was saving for a house. That's why he couldn't afford vacations abroad. Vera was shaking her head. He's been running a budget con along with the relationship con. So here's what I'm thinking, I said, leaning forward. You send the expense report evidence to HR from an anonymous email. I'm going to call the landlord of his apartment and let them know he won't be renewing his lease and that he needs to be out by end of month, as per his lease agreement. He was planning to move in with you. He was. Past tense. Now he'll have no apartment, probably no job, and no girlfriends to crash with. I smiled. Natural consequences. My favorite kind. What about all the stuff he has at your place? I'm going to box it up very carefully and leave it with the front desk of his apartment building. Very mature. Very adult. I paused. Except his Xbox. I'm keeping that. And selling his games to GameStop. For store credit. Vera nodded slowly. I have his Nintendo Switch. Keep it. Deal. We sat there for a moment. 2 women who'd been dating the same man, plotting his downfall over lattes in a coffee shop in downtown Savannah on a Saturday morning. It felt surreal. It felt perfect. I can't believe I'm saying this, Vera said, but I'm glad you showed up at that party. I'm glad you texted me. I raised my coffee cup. To Jasper Landry, the man who brought us together through his exceptional ability to be terrible. She clinked her cup against mine. To getting even. To getting even. Monday morning, I called in sick to work. Not because I was actually sick, but because I had things to do. First stop, Jasper's apartment building. I had a key which felt wrong to use, so I didn't. Instead, I very politely informed the building manager that my ex-fiancé would not be renewing his lease and needed to arrange for move-out by December 31st. But Mr. Landry told us he was renewing, the manager said, confused. Mr. Landry has been telling a lot of people a lot of things, I said sweetly. But his signature isn't on any renewal paperwork, is it? It wasn't. Second stop, my apartment. I packed every single item Jasper had left there over 3 years. Clothes, toiletries, his collection of craft beer glasses, his electric razor, his protein powder that he swore was better than the cheap stuff. I boxed it all up with the care and attention of someone who definitely wasn't imagining throwing it all in a dumpster. I left one thing out. A framed photo of us from our engagement day at Tybee Beach. I wrote on the back, "For your next fiancé, good luck." Third stop, my bank. I removed Jasper from every shared account. Turned out we only had one, a savings account we'd opened for wedding expenses. I transferred my half to my checking account and closed it. The banker looked at me sympathetically. Relationship ending? Like you wouldn't believe. That evening, Vera texted me. HR received an anonymous email this morning. Jasper was called in for a meeting at 2 p.m. He's been suspended pending investigation. I texted back, "How do you know?" "Ashley from accounting. She's my friend. Apparently the whole office knows." Good. Because that was the thing about Jasper's lie. It wasn't just personal. He'd made it public. He'd brought both of us to company events, separately, over years. He'd involved co-workers in his deception, made them unwitting accomplices. And now they all knew. The whispers in the break room, the awkward silences when he walked by, the knowledge that everyone was talking about him. Social consequences are often more devastating than legal ones. Jasper called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. He showed up at my apartment that night. I didn't open the door. "Ramona, please," he shouted through the door. "I can explain everything." "Your explanation was 2 years too late," I called back. "And your stuff is at your apartment building's front desk. You're welcome." "I'm going to lose my job." "You defrauded your company, Jasper. You did that. Own it." Silence. Then, "Where am I supposed to go?" I opened the door just wide enough to look at him. He looked terrible. "Good. Jasper, for 3 years, you made me feel like I wasn't enough. Like I was boring. Like the relationship wasn't exciting anymore. You made me doubt myself while you were running around with someone else." I kept my voice steady. "You made your choices. Now live with them." I closed the door, locked it, and finally, I cried. But they were good tears. Cleansing tears. The kind you cry when you realize you're not sad about losing someone. You're relieved that you finally know the truth. The investigation took 2 weeks. 2 glorious weeks where I watched Jasper's life unravel from the comfortable distance of someone who was no longer responsible for his emotions. Vera kept me updated through text messages that became progressively more gleeful. Day 3. He's been moved to a different floor during the investigation. Away from me. Thank God. Day 5. Ashley says they found 3 years of fraudulent expense reports. 3 years. Day 8. His LinkedIn profile says, "Seeking new opportunities." That's code for, "I got fired," right? Day 10. It happened. He's been terminated. Effective immediately. Security escorted him out. I screenshot that last message and saved it in a folder titled, "Good Days." But the real justice? That came from places I never expected. Turns out when you publicly humiliate yourself at a corporate holiday party that gets recorded by 17 different people, the internet has opinions. Someone posted a TikTok. Just 15 seconds of me saying, "I'm Jasper Landry's fiancé of 3 years," followed by Vera's face crumpling and then her throwing champagne. It went viral. 3 million views in 4 days. The comments were savage. This is why men need to put their relationship status in their bio. The way she held up that ring like she was presenting evidence in court. Iconic. Both women handled this better than he deserved. Plot twist. They should date each other instead. Jasper's company started getting tagged. Then his LinkedIn. Then someone found his Instagram and started commenting on photos from 2 years ago. Which girlfriend took this picture? He deleted all social media by day 6. The landlord at his apartment building called me on December 20th. "Ms. Chandler, this is Bill from Jasper Landry's building. He's saying you have his security deposit." I absolutely do not have his security deposit. We were never on a lease together. He's claiming you were common law married and entitled to half his assets. I laughed so hard I snorted coffee. Bill, I live in a completely different building. I've never signed anything related to his apartment. He's lying to you like he lied to everyone else. That's what I figured. He's got until the 31st to clear out. Thanks for confirming. Common law married. The audacity of this man knew no bounds. Christmas came. My mother invited me to Charleston, asked if I was okay. I told her I was better than okay. I was free. She made me my favorite dinner and didn't mention Jasper once, which is how I knew she'd been waiting for this breakup longer than I had. You seemed tired when you were with him, she said over dessert. Like you were working hard to be someone you weren't. I was working hard to be enough, I corrected. Turns out I was always enough. He was just greedy. On December 28th, Vera texted me a photo. Jasper's car, a blue Honda Civic, parked outside a house in a subdivision that definitely wasn't upscale. Recognize this place? Should I? It's his mom's house, in Hinesville. He moved back home. Jasper Landry, 31 years old, formerly employed marketing manager with a decent salary and 2 girlfriends, was now unemployed and living with his mother, in Hinesville, which is, for those unfamiliar with Georgia geography, where you go when life has thoroughly defeated you and you need your mom to make you feel better. How did you find this? I texted back. His mom posted on Facebook, "So happy to have my boy home for the holidays," with a picture of him looking like a kicked puppy. Her profile is public. Amateur hour. I shouldn't have looked. I knew I shouldn't have looked. But I looked. The photo was devastating. Jasper, unshaven, wearing a ratty t-shirt, sitting on a floral couch that had definitely been purchased during the Reagan administration. His mom beaming next to him. The caption, "My Jasper is taking some time to find himself. So proud of my resilient boy." The comments were even better. Isn't this the guy from that viral video? Wait, this is that Jasper? Finding himself? More like hiding from his 2 ex-girlfriends, lol? Someone had connected the dots between viral TikTok Jasper and Hinesville Jasper. His mom's Facebook was getting bombarded. She made her profile private by evening. I almost feel bad, I texted Vera. Don't. He made his choices. She was right. Every bit of this, the job loss, the public humiliation, the move back home, was a direct result of his own actions. Natural consequences, my favorite kind. New Year's Eve, I went out with my actual friends, the ones I'd neglected while I was busy planning a future with a man who was planning 2 futures. We went to the distillery on Tybee Island, drank cocktails with names like Bad Decisions and Forget Him, and counted down to midnight surrounded by people who actually cared about me. At 11:58, my phone buzzed. Jasper, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I messed up the best thing in my life. Both best things. I was scared and stupid and I wish I could take it all back. I hope someday you can forgive me. I read it twice. Thought about responding. Thought about all the things I could say. Then I did something better. I blocked his number. At midnight, surrounded by friends, I kissed the New Year hello and Jasper Landry goodbye. January brought changes. Vera got her transfer to Atlanta approved, effective February 1st. We met for coffee one last time before she left. I heard through the grapevine that Jasper's working at a call center now, she said. Customer service for an insurance company. In Pooler. From marketing manager to have you tried turning it off and on again, guy. I sipped my latte. That's poetic. His mom keeps posting about how he's building character and learning resilience. Vera rolled her eyes. Translation, he's broke and I'm supporting him. Do you ever wonder if we were too harsh? I asked. Vera looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Ramona. He lied to both of us for 2 years. He defrauded his company. He played with our emotions, our time, our futures. He deserves everything he got and more. You're right. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I should be more devastated than I am. You're not devastated because you didn't lose anything worth keeping. Vera reached across the table and squeezed my hand. He showed you exactly who he was. A liar and a con artist with good hair and mediocre conversation skills. You lost nothing. You gained freedom. She was right. These past 6 weeks, I'd felt lighter than I had in years. No more checking my phone constantly. No more wondering why he was working late again. No more making myself smaller to fit into whatever space he'd decided to give me that week. I'm going on a date next week, I said suddenly. Guy from my gym. Asked me out 3 times over the past year, but I was engaged, so I said no. And now? Now I'm saying yes. I smiled. His name is Barrett. He's a personal trainer, divorced, has a daughter. Very upfront about his life, refreshingly honest. Look at you, moving on like a functional adult. Look at me, I agreed. Vera left for Atlanta 2 weeks later. We hugged goodbye in the parking lot of Forsyth Park Cafe, where this strange friendship had begun over shared betrayal and credit card receipts. Thank you, she said, for not hating me. Thank you for not hating me, I replied. And for the spreadsheet. That spreadsheet changed my life. Data analysis saves the day again. She laughed. Hey, if you're ever in Atlanta, look me up. We'll get drinks and talk about literally anything except Jasper Landry. Deal. February 14th. Valentine's Day. The universe has a sick sense of humor. I was at work, consulting with a client about meal prep strategies, when my receptionist knocked on my door. Ramona? Someone left flowers for you at the front desk. My stomach dropped. If Jasper had sent me flowers, but they weren't from Jasper. They were from Barrett. Red roses with a card that said, "Third date on Valentine's Day feels significant. Dinner tonight? No pressure. But also, definitely pressure. Barrett." I laughed. Actually laughed. Then I texted him back. "Dinner sounds perfect. Pick me up at 7? That evening, getting ready for my date, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. I looked different. Lighter. Happier. The version of myself I'd been before I'd spent 3 years making myself smaller for a man who didn't deserve my full size. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "I see you're dating someone new. I hope he treats you better than I did. You deserve it. Jay." I stared at that message for a long moment. Thought about responding. Thought about all the things I could say about how he'd set the bar so low that literally anyone would treat me better. About how he didn't get to have opinions on my life anymore. Instead, I deleted the message, blocked the number, and finished my makeup. Barrett picked me up at 7 on the dot, held the door open, complimented my dress, took me to dinner at Alligator Soul, which is fancy and romantic, and everything Jasper had always said was too expensive for a regular Tuesday. It was Wednesday, and it was perfect. Over dessert, Barrett said, "I know you just got out of something serious. We can take this as slow as you need." "I appreciate that," I said, "but I'm ready. I spent 3 years in something that was only serious for me. Now I'm ready for something real. Real sounds good to me." We toasted to that. To real relationships. To honest communication. To futures that didn't involve secret second girlfriends or fraudulent expense reports. Later that night, scrolling Instagram before bed, I saw that someone had tagged me in a post. It was from the viral TikTok account that had originally posted the party video. Update. Both queens are thriving. Ramona is dating a personal trainer and glowing. Vera got promoted in Atlanta. Jasper is reportedly working customer service in Pooler, GA, and living with his mom. This is your reminder that karma is real and women supporting women is everything. The comments were beautiful. This is the ending we deserved. Both of them upgraded while he downgraded to his childhood bedroom. This man really had 2 amazing women and fumbled both of them. Talent. I screenshot it and sent it to Vera. She replied immediately. "We're famous for the right reasons now." Character growth. To character growth, I typed back. And to never settling for less than we deserve. Amen to that. 6 months later, I was standing in my new apartment. Not the one I'd shared space with Jasper's ghost in. A new one. Bigger, better view. Hardwood floors that I'd picked out myself without consulting anyone. Barrett was helping me hang pictures, which felt significant in that we're actually building something real kind of way. His daughter Chloe, 8 years old and brutally honest in the way only children can be, was arranging books on my shelf by color because It looks better that way, Ramona. Your old boyfriend was stupid, Chloe announced, not looking up from her rainbow organization system. Barrett winced. Chloe, we talked about this. What? Dad showed me the TikTok. The guy had 2 girlfriends and lost both of them. That's stupid. She moved a green book next to a blue one, frowned, moved it back. You're way prettier than him anyway. Thank you, Chloe. That's very kind. I'm not being kind. I'm being factual. She looked at me seriously. Dad says you're smart and funny and you teach people about vegetables. Nutrition, I corrected, smiling. Same thing. Hard to argue with 8-year-old logic. My phone buzzed. Vera, from Atlanta. A screenshot of a LinkedIn post. Jasper had updated his profile. Customer service representative seeking growth opportunities in marketing or sales. Skilled in relationship management and multitasking. Her message, relationship management, the audacity. I laughed out loud. Barrett looked over my shoulder, read it, shook his head. That guy really doesn't know when to quit, does he? He's unemployed in Hinesville living with his mother, I said. He's got nothing but time to not know when to quit. Last I'd heard through the Savannah Gossip Network, which never sleeps and never forgets, Jasper was still at the call center, still single, still the subject of whispered stories at every corporate happy hour in the city. Remember that guy who had 2 girlfriends and got caught at the holiday party? He'd become an urban legend, a cautionary tale. The answer to, what's the worst thing that could happen at a company party? His mother had stopped posting about him on Facebook after someone created a parody account called Jasper's Other Mom that kept commenting on her posts. The internet is undefeated. Meanwhile, Vera had gotten promoted. Senior marketing coordinator, corner office, dating a lawyer she'd met through, and this is the beautiful part, a mutual friend who was representing her in a small claims case against Jasper for the money he'd borrowed and never returned. She won. He paid in installments, $50 a month, automatically deducted from his call center paychecks. It's not about the money, Vera had told me. It's about the principle. And also watching him pay me every month for the next 2 years. Poetic justice tastes sweeter when it comes with a payment plan. As for me, I'd built a life I actually wanted instead of a life I thought I was supposed to want. My nutrition practice had grown. I'd taken on 2 new clients who'd specifically sought me out because you're that woman from the viral video who handled everything with class. Apparently, public humiliation is excellent marketing when you come out on the right side of it. Barrett and I had been dating for 5 months. Real dating. The kind where he introduced me to his daughter after 2 months because I don't bring people around Chloe unless they're going to stick around. The kind where we talked about futures and plans and actually meant them. The kind where I never once wondered where he was or who he was with because he told me. Revolutionary concept. Honesty. What are you thinking about? Barrett asked, catching me staring out the window. Just that a year ago, I was planning a wedding to someone who was planning a double life. And now I'm here. New apartment, new relationship, new life. It's weird how fast things can change when you stop accepting less than you deserve. Deep thoughts for a Saturday afternoon. I'm a woman of depth and complexity. You're a woman who ate ice cream for breakfast. Chloe had apparently been listening. I saw the bowl in the sink. It was frozen yogurt, I corrected. There's a difference. Not really, she said, and went back to her books. Barrett pulled me close. For what it's worth, I'm glad that guy was an idiot. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten my chance. Your chance came because you asked me out consistently for a year without being creepy about it. That's called respecting boundaries and showing genuine interest. I'm going to put that on my resume. Excellent at respecting boundaries and not being creepy. Set the bar low enough and you'll always clear it, I said. But I was smiling. That night, after Barrett and Chloe left, I sat on my new couch in my new apartment and thought about the past year. The humiliation, the anger, the betrayal, and then the freedom, the growth, the realization that I'd spent 3 years trying to be enough for someone who would never be satisfied because the problem wasn't me, it was him. Jasper had taught me something valuable, though he'd never intended to. He taught me that my worth isn't determined by someone else's inability to see it. that I don't need to shrink myself to fit into someone else's life, that the right person won't make me feel like I'm competing for attention in my own relationship. My phone buzzed one last time. Unknown number. I almost didn't open it. I heard you're happy. I'm glad. You always deserved better. I'm sorry I couldn't be that. Jay. I stared at that message for a long time, thought about everything I could say, everything I wanted to say. Then I did what I should have done a year ago. I deleted it without responding and blocked the number. Some stories don't need closure. Some stories just need to end. I opened my text thread with Vera instead. Jasper just texted from another number. Did you respond? Nope. Blocked and deleted. I'm done being part of his narrative. Good. He doesn't get to haunt your inbox looking for absolution. Let him sit with his choices. Speaking of choices, Barrett asked if I wanted to meet his parents next month. Ramona, that's huge. I know. Terrifying and exciting in equal measure. That's how you know it's real. When the scary parts feel worth it. She was right. This was scary. Meeting parents. Building a relationship with a man who had a child. Planning a future that involved more than just me. But it was the good kind of scary. The I'm growing as a person scary. Not the I'm ignoring red flags scary. I'd learned to tell the difference. 1 year after the worst holiday party in Savannah history, I was thriving. Jasper was surviving. And somewhere in the cosmic balance of justice, that felt exactly right. The universe doesn't always give you what you want. Sometimes it gives you what you need. And what I'd needed was to learn that I deserved better than someone who treated relationships like a hobby he could pick up and put down whenever convenient. I deserved someone who showed up, who was honest, who introduced me to his family and didn't hide me from his coworkers, who didn't make me feel like loving him was a competitive sport. I deserved Barrett, and Chloe, and this new apartment with its hardwood floors and big windows, and clients who respected my expertise, and friends who actually showed up when I needed them. I deserved the life I was building, piece by piece, without asking anyone's permission. And Jasper? He deserved exactly what he got. Some people call it karma. I call it math. You can't live a double life forever. Eventually the equations don't add up and someone checks your work. I just happened to be there when the numbers finally exposed him for the fraud he was. The best revenge isn't dramatic. It's not public humiliation or elaborate schemes. The best revenge is building a life so good that you forget to be angry. It's waking up and realizing you haven't thought about them in days. It's meeting someone new and recognizing green flags because you finally learned what red ones look like. The best revenge is being genuinely, authentically happy. And I was. Turns out, you don't need closure. You just need to close the door.
I unexpectedly came home at noon without telling my husband in advance, and I unexpectedly saw, through the half-closed bedroom door, my husband with Winter, his close friend, on our love seat. I stood frozen when I heard my husband say, between heavy breaths, "I'd rather kiss the dog Daisy than kiss Melissa." Just before I quietly walked away, they noticed, and their faces turned pale. My name is Melissa Ward, 34 years old, a veterinarian and owner of Pine Hill Veterinary Care Clinic in Cambridge, Boston. My life used to revolve around abandoned cats, injured dogs, and the quiet cries of little souls in need of healing. I always thought of myself as lucky. I had a job I loved, a steady husband, and a warm home in Brookline. Until that afternoon, I left work early due to an unusual stomach pain. My stomach twisted, my head a bit dizzy, but all I could think about was getting home, lying down, and maybe having a simple lunch. As I drove closer to home, I furrowed my brows slightly. Franklin's SUV, my husband's, was already parked in the garage. Strange. At this hour, he was usually at the office until at least 3 in the afternoon. But the suspicion passed quickly, replaced by a small joy, the thought of having lunch with him. I smiled, my heart lightened, as if something warm was waiting for me ahead. I opened the door and stepped inside, softly calling his name. No response. In the silence, there was only the ticking of the wall clock and the lingering scent of an unfamiliar perfume in the air. I stepped carefully down the hallway and stopped. A sound. Soft. Broken. the sound of breathing and muffled giggles. My hand trembled as it touched the half-closed bedroom door. And then, everything inside me collapsed. Franklin, my husband, was with Winter, his best friend, on the love seat in our bedroom. Winter, who once brought in a cat with pneumonia to my clinic, whom I had once considered a friend, was there, on the same seat where my husband and I used to share sweet evenings together. I froze. I couldn't scream. I couldn't cry. I could only hear Franklin's voice, low and breathy. I'd rather kiss the dog Daisy than kiss Melissa. Daisy, the dog I rescued from a garbage dump when she was close to death. That sentence pierced through me like a blade. 8 years of memories shattered like a glass thrown onto stone. I recalled the past few weeks, how he kept avoiding me, claiming to be tired, blaming work, even sleeping alone in the study. Now, everything made sense. As I stepped back, my foot accidentally hit the corner of the wooden table. The sound made Franklin turn. Our eyes met. He froze. His face turned pale, his mouth opening as if to say something, but I couldn't hear anything anymore. I turned away and walked out before he could stop me. I rushed down the stairs, opened the door, and drove off, though my hands were shaking so hard I could barely control the steering wheel. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to get away as far as possible. The Boston wind was so cold it stung my eyes, but I still didn't cry. I forced the tears back, as if letting them fall would make me crumble completely. My phone rang incessantly. I looked at the screen. Franklin calling, then Winter. I didn't answer, but they left voicemails. Franklin's voice pleading, "Melissa, please let me explain. You misunderstood. It wasn't as serious as it looked. I was just too drunk. A big client canceled the contract today, and I had too much to drink." Winter was just comforting me. Then came Winter's voice, choked and broken. "Melissa, please listen. I never meant to betray you. I was only there because Franklin was upset. I didn't know things would go that far. It's not love, just a moment of weakness." I turned on the speaker, listening in silence. Their voices echoed between the howling wind outside the car and the distant horns of Boston traffic. Every word they said sounded like a bad play, full of lies and fear. They wanted me to believe that betrayal was just an accident, an unserious one. I didn't respond. I just gripped the steering wheel tighter, and finally, the tears came, mixing with the rain that had begun to tap on the car windows. I drove to the park by the Charles River, where we had once celebrated our 3rd wedding anniversary. I sat on the cold stone bench, stared at the misty water, and realized I had lost not just a husband, but also the most beautiful part of my trust. An elderly woman walked by with a white-haired dog, paused, and looked at me with gentle eyes. "Are you all right?" she asked. I nodded faintly. She smiled. "Don't cry for someone who doesn't value your love." That sentence felt like a touch to my heart. I nodded again, a faint smile forming, but inside, a decision had already been made. That night, I rented a small hotel room in Back Bay. The room looked out onto Beacon Street, the yellow lights reflecting off the windows. I sat there, silent for hours, staring at my own reflection, tired, in pain, but no longer wanting to run. I opened my notebook and wrote the first lines. Day 1, reclaiming control. And below that, a short list. Meet lawyer, hire private investigator, collect evidence, protect assets, protect myself. As I put the pen down, I knew my life had just taken a completely different turn, and this time, I would be the one rewriting the whole story. 3 days after I left home, I was still staying at the small hotel in Back Bay. Every morning, I woke up early, opened the window to watch Boston's crowds heading to work, and felt like a ghost. No longer a wife, no longer a friend, just a name adrift in chaos. Franklin still called. Every day. His messages overflowed with apologies, promises, and hollow lines like, "I can't live without you." I read them and felt nothing. Winter had vanished completely from social media. But I knew that kind of silence. It wasn't shame, it was calculation. And I needed truth, not guilt. That morning, I received a strange text from Nathan Collins, Winter's husband. Just one line. I think we should talk. I have something you need to know. That one sentence made my heart sink. Nathan, the quiet gentleman who always accompanied Winter to couple events. I still remembered his eyes during last year's Christmas dinner, eyes that knew something but chose silence. I called him back. His voice was low, tired. Can we meet? At Riverbean, Harvard Square. As soon as possible, the small cafe was tucked under a row of old brick walls, the scent of espresso mingling with the smell of baked cinnamon. I walked in and saw Nathan seated in the far corner. He looked thinner, the shadows under his eyes deeper, and his coffee cold. As I sat down, he quietly said, I'm sorry for everything. I hesitated. You have nothing to be sorry for, Nathan. We're just standing at opposite ends of the same truth. He gave a tired smile. No, I knew about them before you did. My grip tightened. What do you mean? He pulled out an old phone and showed me a folder full of messages, conversations between Winter and Franklin going back nearly 6 months. This wasn't a fleeting mistake. It was deliberate, sustained, filled with coded language, rendezvous, and planning. He said, they deceived us both. But that's not the worst part. I discovered a plan, one that chilled me. He opened a tablet, displaying screenshots of emails from Winter to Franklin. One line stood out. If she loses credibility, we can buy the clinic. Call Dallas. He knows how to handle the small accident with the VIP client's cat. I read it and felt frozen. Small accident. They were talking about a living being, an innocent creature. I looked at Nathan. He nodded grimly. They were planning to orchestrate the death of a cat belonging to a high-profile client, then spread rumors your clinic was negligent. When your reputation collapsed, Franklin would come in as the rescuer and buy the practice at a low price. Winter would manage the PR. Do you understand? This isn't just betrayal. It's a plan to destroy you. I sat frozen, gripping my coffee cup until my fingers turned white. Faces of the animals I'd saved flashed through my mind, the sleepless nights. The thank you letters hung on the clinic walls. All of it, to them, just a business deal. Nathan looked at me and said slowly, I didn't come to hurt you. I came because I can't stay silent anymore. Franklin and Winter think they're clever, that you'll collapse and I'll stay weak. But they forgot that the silent ones are the ones watching. I looked at him, my emotions tangled. Anger, sorrow, and a flicker of hope. For the first time in days, I didn't feel alone. I nodded. If you're ready to help, we can turn this around. I don't just want to expose them, I want the truth out. Nathan took a deep breath. I've prepared everything. I have copies of their messages and their financial plan to take the clinic. He handed me a USB drive. When it touched my palm, it felt like holding a fuse. Small, silent, but powerful enough to blow apart every lie. I set down my cup and looked out the window. Rain fell softly on the brick street. I said, my voice calm and cold, I won't let them decide my worth. Thank you, Nathan. From now on, we're no longer just victims. He gave a tired but real smile. Then let's begin. As I stepped out of the cafe, the wind hit hard against my cheek, bitterly cold. But I had found an ally, and stepped into a battle I knew I would win, not through fury, but with precision. Since the meeting at Riverbean, Nathan and I stayed in regular contact. We used encrypted emails and secure apps to share documents. Nathan continued living with Winter, pretending to forgive her, while secretly recording calls and copying emails and texts between her and Franklin. He told me, she thinks I'm weak. But the more I play the fool, the clearer I see who they really are. I knew he was enduring pain, but we both understood. Silence was a strategy, not surrender. On Monday morning, I decided to meet Lucia Harrington, a lawyer recommended by an old friend. Her office was on the 22nd floor of a glass tower on Boylston Street, overlooking Boston. Lucia came out to greet me, around 45, slender build, silver-streaked hair tied back, her eyes calm but sharp as blades. When I sat down, she placed a black coffee in front of me and said softly, "Ready to talk?" I told her everything. The affair, Nathan's messages, the plan to destroy the clinic's reputation. Lucia didn't interrupt. She simply took notes, nodding occasionally. When I finished, she clasped her hands together and said firmly, "The first thing you need to do is draw your legal lines. I'll help you draft a post-nuptial agreement to protect all your assets and the full ownership of Pine Hill Veterinary Care. If Franklin wants to reconcile, he'll sign. If not, you still win," I sighed. "He won't sign if he knows the real reason." Lucia smiled faintly. "He'll sign. Men like Franklin only trust what they believe they control. You just need to give him that illusion." Then she looked me in the eye. "Melissa, when a man cheats, he's not just taking your trust. He's testing whether you'll fight back. And if you don't, he'll believe you deserved it." I sat in silence. Her words struck deep, not because they hurt, but because they were true. I'd trusted too much, been too gentle. Now I had to use the same intellect I used to heal others, to save myself. Lucia opened another folder and pointed to documents I needed: financial statements, my veterinary license, lease agreements, and tax returns. "We'll move everything temporarily into a personal trust, under your name and an independent trustee. We'll use Massachusetts laws protecting personal businesses in marriage. Think of it as a strategic relocation." I nodded and started taking detailed notes. For the first time in weeks, I felt my breathing steady. No more chaos, no more being pushed into corners. I was writing the rules now. The meeting lasted over an hour. As I stood to leave, Lucia placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Melissa, you heal the voiceless. Now, learn to heal yourself, with reason, not sympathy." Stepping out of the building, the wind from the Charles River blew my hair back. I opened my phone and began recording all incoming calls from Franklin, saving every message to a separate drive and sending a backup to Lucia. I even installed a small recorder in the clinic, in case Winter or anyone tried to interfere. That evening, I opened my laptop and created a folder titled Recovery Plan. Inside were 3 new files: legal documents, evidence, Franklin and Winter, and next steps. I stuck a note on my screen: control. Don't react. At that moment, I understood. To reclaim freedom, I didn't need to scream or retaliate in pain. I just had to let them fall into their own trap. And the first thing I needed was proof. I returned to Pine Hill Veterinary Care on Thursday morning, after nearly a week off, under the pretense of recovering my health. As the glass door swung open, the familiar mix of antiseptic and coffee from the front desk greeted me. Everything looked normal, but I knew, from now on, every corner of this place would be a battleground. Sienna, my assistant, rushed over, her eyes a mix of relief and worry. "Dr. Melissa, I'm so glad you're back. There's something I think you should know." I looked at the young woman, her hands tightly clutching a file. "Tell me, Sienna." She swallowed hard, lowering her voice. "2 days ago, Franklin came to the clinic. He said you were sick and had authorized him to collect a few client contract files. I thought it was odd. He's never gotten involved with the clinic before, but he was confident and he had a printed email with your signature." I remained silent. One word lit up in my mind: forgery. Sienna continued. "I secretly checked the security footage. Here." She opened her laptop and pulled up a video. On screen, Franklin in a long coat and sunglasses, heading straight for the back archive. He discreetly opened a cabinet, pulled out files, took photos with his phone, and quickly slipped them into his bag. As he exited, a woman in a gray coat, unfamiliar, was waiting in the parking lot. She received a small USB from his hand. I stared at the screen, my heart slowing, each beat icy cold. He didn't just betray me, he's stealing our client's trust. Sienna nodded quietly. I backed up the footage to a separate drive, password protected. If you want, I can send it to your lawyer. I took her hand and gave it a light squeeze. Thank you, Sienna. Keep this between us. From now on, anyone asking about me, don't say a word. She nodded, her gaze more resolute. I understand. I'm on your side that night. As Boston glowed under warm yellow lights, I sat in my small hotel room and replayed Franklin's video frame by frame. The hum of city traffic blended with the steady beat of my heart. No longer chaotic. I placed the USB into an envelope, sealed it, and sent it overnight to Lucia Harrington. With it, a short note. They've started playing dirty. I'm ready, around 10 p.m., Lucia called back, her voice as calm as ever. Good, Melissa. Now you have visual evidence. But don't rush. You don't need to strike first. In law, timing outweighs evidence. Let them confess on their own. That's how you win, not just in court, but in yourself. I listened silently, eyes fixed on the window. The reflection of street lamps shimmered on the glass, revealing a woman staring back, no longer broken, no longer grieving. Lucia, I said, I'm not seeking revenge. I just want the truth to do its job. She replied, and it will, when you're patient enough. I nodded, set the phone down, turned off the lights, and let the faint blue glow of the laptop screen fill the room. In the darkness, I heard the clock ticking, each beat soft yet firm, like the footsteps of justice drawing near. 2 days later, I received a message from Franklin. Just one conversation. One chance, Melissa. I was wrong. I stared at the screen for a few seconds before typing back. All right. Oakview, 7 p.m. Oakview, the restaurant where we celebrated our 4th anniversary. That night, he had given me a bouquet of white roses and whispered, I love the peace in you. Now I chose that very place, to see how much of his so-called peace remained. That evening, Boston lay beneath a soft layer of mist. I wore a simple cream dress, hair neatly pinned, and the same small silver earrings I used to wear on clinic days. When I walked in, I saw Franklin already seated at our old corner table. He looked thinner, scruffy-bearded, shirt wrinkled, yet still forced a smile, as if that could erase everything. Thank you for coming, he said hoarsely. I gave a small nod. You said you needed to explain. Franklin sighed, clenching his hands, eyes fixed on the table. I know you saw everything. I won't make excuses. That day, I drank too much. The past month's been hell. Major clients dropped out. My mind's been a mess. Winter came to comfort me, and things got out of hand. I remained silent. My composure clearly unsettled him. I know it was terrible. I regret it every day. We were just friends. I don't love her, Melissa. Not at all. I just felt weak, just wanted someone to listen, just that once. I was wrong, I tilted my head, my voice soft, as if speaking to an anxious patient. And you think a canceled contract gave you the right to destroy 8 years of trust? He lowered his head, voice cracking. I don't know what to say besides, I'm sorry. I just want a second chance. I'll do anything to prove I'm sorry. I paused for a long moment. Then, I pulled a white envelope from my bag and placed it before him. You said anything, right? Franklin looked at me and nodded eagerly. Yes. Anything to fix this marriage. I slid the envelope toward him. Then sign this. A post-nuptial agreement. Lucia, my lawyer, Jess, drafted it. If you truly want to start over, sign it. It's just a way to ensure you won't repeat your mistakes. He looked at me, suspicious. You hired a lawyer? I smiled faintly. You once told me, trust without terms is just fleeting emotion. I'm applying that now. Franklin opened the document, skimmed the first few lines. I knew he wouldn't read closely. That's who he was. Overconfident, dismissive. Certain I'd always be soft. He grabbed the pen and signed. "Done," he said with a sigh, then reached for my hand. "I know you still love me, Melissa." "I see it in your eyes." I let his hand rest for a moment, then gently pulled away. "Everyone deserves a chance to make things right." He frowned, puzzled. I smiled, stood, collected the document, and slipped it back into my bag. "Thanks for signing. Things will be much clearer from now on." I left him sitting there, surrounded by candlelight and the distant sound of a cello. As I stepped out into the sharp Boston wind, I stood on the sidewalk and took a deep breath. In my bag, the freshly signed post-nuptial agreement held a clause that stated any act of deceit, manipulation, or financial misconduct would trigger civil penalties and forfeiture of shared assets. Franklin had just signed his name into a perfect legal trap. And the cruelest irony? His own story of drunken weakness gave me every reason to set it. I turned and walked into the Boston night, a faint smile flickering across my lips. For the first time, I felt no need to retaliate, because I knew the truth stood with me, and he had just signed the beginning of his own downfall. The next morning, I received an envelope from Joseph Hale, the private investigator Lucia had recommended. Inside was a full report on Franklin's past, neatly organized, chilling, and full of fragments I had never known. The first page read, "Elaine Ward versus Robert Ward, divorce file, Essex County, 1997. Franklin's father, Robert Ward, had cheated on his wife with a company employee. His mother, Elaine, divorced him when Franklin was 10. Since then, the boy had lived caught between love and resentment. He loathed his father's betrayal, yet grew up to become his mirror image. A brief note from his school psychology report read, "Emotionally unstable, strong possessive behavior, tendency to replicate paternal patterns." I read, my heart heavy. And then came the lines that left me frozen. At age 18, Franklin had a sexual relationship with Amy, his 16-year-old cousin, resulting in a pregnancy. Her family threatened legal action for statutory rape, but Franklin's mother, Elaine, secretly paid a large settlement, $50,000 at the time, in exchange for silence. 4 years later, during his senior year in college, Franklin had an affair with Michaela, a married professor. The relationship ended only after her husband found out, filed a complaint with the university, and forced Franklin to transfer schools to avoid disciplinary action. I sat still, feeling like I was reading a recycled script, one where every generation of Ward men rewrote the same sin, just with new settings. Lucia called, her voice steady. "Franklin despised his father, yet he's living out the same life." A child raised in betrayal either fears becoming the betrayer or becomes him, I replied softly, and Franklin chose the second. I closed the file and looked out the window. Morning light filtered through the Boston curtains, casting streaks like boundaries between past and present. Inside, I felt no more rage, only clarity. He hadn't accidentally betrayed me. He was repeating a legacy carved deep into his blood. I texted Lucia. "I understand now. I want to know the origin of the other one." She replied, "Winter." I think her husband is quietly digging into her past too. I set my phone down and inhaled deeply. A clear thought rose within me. To end this cycle, I couldn't merely punish them. I had to bring the truth to light, so the pattern of pain could stop with me. That afternoon, I met Nathan again at Riverbean. He brought a thin file, quietly saying, "I think you should know, not for sympathy, but to understand why she chose that path." Inside were a few old photos of Sylvia Collins, Winter's mother, a nurse at a doctor's clinic who had been in an affair with a married physician for 3 years. When Sylvia became pregnant, the man disappeared, leaving her with an illegitimate child and not a word of remorse. Winter was raised in bitterness, with the only lesson her mother ever passed down: men only stay with the woman who makes them feel special. I understood. She had learned to love wrongly from a woman who had once loved wrongly too. 2 entries in the file made my blood run cold. In her senior year of high school, Winter had an affair with Jackson, the father of her best friend. The relationship only ended when they were caught in a hotel, discovered by that very friend and her mother. Years later, during her internship, Winter again fell into an affair with Tristan, her married supervisor, which lasted 9 months before his wife found out, and he fired Winter in exchange for forgiveness. I read all this, and my heart sank. Not from hatred, but from the realization. Winter hadn't just ruined someone else's marriage. She was reliving her mother's tragedy, believing that she'd only be seen if she could possess a man who already belonged to someone else. Lucia once said, "Those who hurt others are often the ones who've never been healed." Now I understood. Winter didn't just want to steal my husband. She was trying to reclaim the image of a father she never had, and Franklin, sadly, was the perfect man for that role. I closed the file and told Nathan, "I'm not here to forgive. I just need to end this." He nodded. End the cycle that began with them. With truth. As I left the cafe, the rain had started to fall. Droplets clung to the glass window, like threads of memory, reminding me that healing always begins by looking straight into the root of the wound. That night, I returned to my hotel in Back Bay. The Boston rain still fell, mist-like drops blurring the window pane with a soft haze. In the small room, lit only by a dim desk lamp, I sat down and opened my notebook. For the first time since everything began, I wrote, not to vent, but to see the story from outside my pain. I drew 2 parallel columns and wrote Franklin's name on the left, Winter's on the right. Beneath each, I jotted brief clinical notes like a psychiatrist annotating trauma. Franklin, feared becoming his father, repeated betrayal. Winter, longed to be seen by her father, pursued married men. I stared at those lines for a long time, as if facing 2 mirrored souls. A man who betrayed because he feared his past, and a woman who stole love to feel loved. Neither of them truly loved anyone. They were both running from childhood wounds, and in their flight, they used me like an obstacle to trample over in order to feel worthy. I closed my eyes and recalled what Lucia had said in our first meeting. Those who hurt others are often the ones who've never been healed. Back then, I thought it was just philosophical comfort. Now it echoed in me like a brutal truth. I had seen it. They were not monsters, only children who grew up in dark houses, now fumbling to relight a candle, even if it meant burning others. I turned to a new page and wrote in firm strokes, "I will not let their past define my present. I will end the cycle, with truth, not hatred." I closed the notebook and set the pen down. In the mirror's reflection, my face no longer looked lost. It held the stillness of someone who had finally seen through the illusions. Outside, the rain fell harder. I stood and drew back the curtains, gazing down at the streetlights. People still walked, cars still passed, life went on, and I understood. The world never pauses for anyone's pain. But tonight, for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel pain anymore. There was only one thing left to do: bring the truth into the light. 2 weeks later, I sent out invitations for the celebration of my 8th wedding anniversary with Franklin. The invitation was elegant, gold-edged white background, listing the venue. The Grand Ivy Hotel, Boston, 18th floor ballroom. No one knew that this event wasn't a celebration. It was a courtroom of truth I had built myself. Franklin protested violently when he saw the guest list. "Are you insane? Why would you invite Winter and Nathan? You want to turn our anniversary into a farce?" I only smiled and replied gently, "I just thought we should have everyone who's been part of our lives present. I want to start fresh, remember?" He hesitated, then nodded. He thought I had softened. He believed silence from a woman meant forgiveness. He didn't know I was silent because I was listening to the truth approaching. In the days of preparation, Lucia and Sienna came to the hotel to help. We rented a private meeting room next to the ballroom, where Lucia set up a small projection system and reviewed the USB, containing all the evidence. Franklin breaking into the file room, the messages detailing their plan to discredit the clinic, and the recorded conversation between me and Franklin at Oakview. Lucia placed a hand on my shoulder and said calmly, "When the truth is revealed, you don't need to shout. Let it speak for you, Sienna." The once shy assistant had become a pillar of strength. She helped organize the documents, arrange seating, and test every device. At one point, she looked at me, eyes tinged with concern. "Are you sure you're ready to see them in the same room?" I smiled, steady. "I've already seen the worst. Everything from now on is just truth." Meanwhile, Nathan continued his role as the forgiving husband. He messaged Winter, subtly feeding her the illusion that Franklin was leaving me for her. The conversations were archived by Lucia as proof of motive and conspiracy. Nathan told me over the phone, "She believes it now. She thinks Franklin will choose her, and this event is where he'll make it official." I replied quietly, "Let them reveal themselves. When people think they're about to win, they drop their masks." On the final night before the event, I sat in the hotel room, gazing out at the city lights. Boston shimmered, traffic flowing like a constellation of moving stars. I opened the USB again and replayed the videos, the evidence. Each frame was once a blade. But now, it didn't hurt anymore. It only reminded me how far I'd come. At 11 p.m., I closed the laptop and exhaled deeply. Tomorrow, it would all end. Not with tears, but with light. That evening, the Grand Ivy Ballroom glowed with white flowers, golden candles, and soft jazz music. Everyone was dressed to the nines, believing they were attending a wedding anniversary celebration, unaware they were about to witness a courtroom of truth. I entered wearing an ivory gown, long and elegant, its V neckline revealing the silver necklace Franklin had once given me on our first anniversary. The room fell silent as I walked through. Franklin stood near the podium, clinging to a forced smile. Winter, in a navy blue dress, sat in the back row, her eyes flickering between nervousness and confidence, as if she truly believed tonight Franklin would finally claim her. When the MC invited me on stage, I took the microphone and walked slowly under the lights. The music stopped. I raised my glass and spoke with a voice soft but unyielding. "Thank you all for being here. 8 years of marriage is long enough to understand. Some truths can't stay hidden under the spotlight forever." A few chuckled, mistaking it for a poetic opening. But seconds later, the screen behind me lit up. First, a video, Franklin entering the records room, handing off a USB to a stranger. Gasps rippled through the hall. Then the screen shifted to a series of messages. Winter, "After the clinic collapses, we'll buy it. You'll be her savior, Franklin. Handle the media. I'll get her to sign." The air turned thick. Guests began inching away from Franklin's table. But I didn't stop. I clicked the remote, voice steady. And here's what they hid for far longer. Not just betrayal of a wife, but betrayal of basic human decency. The screen switched. Franklin Ward, 2008. Age 18. Relationship with underage cousin, resulting in pregnancy. Case settled privately. A stunned murmur swept the room. Then a photo from 2012, captioned, "Affair with married professor. Transferred schools after complaint." Franklin's face drained of color. His grip on the wineglass turned his knuckles white. I said nothing, just looked at him. Then the slide changed again. Winter Collins, 2010. High school student, affair with best friend's father, Cotton Hotel. Another wave of whispers. Final slide. 2017 internship. 9-month affair with married director, ended when exposed. Wife filed for divorce. Now they understood. This wasn't a momentary lapse. It was a pattern, born of wounded psychology. Nathan stepped up calmly. "I'm Winter's husband. I'm sorry, but this isn't just personal. This is a pattern of two people who were once betrayed, becoming betrayers themselves. He plugged in another USB, and the screen showed more messages. Winter. She's too soft to suspect. Just pretend a few more months, Franklin. I know how to get her to sign. The ballroom fell silent. Franklin looked down, hands shaking. Winter buried her face in her hands, tears streaking her makeup. Franklin tried to speak. Melissa, I was pulled in, I replied, voice composed, eyes cold but clear. You said you'd rather kiss a dog than kiss me. Well, I'd rather embrace freedom than hold on to a liar. A sharp crash. His glass shattered on the floor, scattering under the lights like shards of the love he once pretended to protect. Winter collapsed into her chair, sobbing. I just wanted to be loved. I looked at her, voice low, not bitter, just final. Step out of your mother's shadow, Winter. If you truly want love, stop stealing someone else's. At the back of the room, Lucia nodded. Everything had been recorded, legal, intact. I placed the mic down and stepped off the stage. Franklin called out, choking, Melissa, I can explain. I stopped, didn't turn. No need. The light already did. I walked out of the silent ballroom, each step echoing on marble floors. Every footfall a period ending 8 years of deception. The next morning, I woke up in my temporary apartment in Brookline to a phone vibrating nonstop. The news had spread across local media. A bold headline on the Boston Daily Chronicle read, Insurance agent Franklin Ward under investigation for alleged financial misconduct and conspiracy against Boston Vet Clinic. Within hours, his company issued a statement suspending him pending internal investigation. They cited potential conflicts of interest and ethical violations. I read it not with satisfaction, but with quiet closure, like a wound finally stitched shut. Winter's fate was different. The media descended on her like vultures. Leaked texts and videos of her entering the records room circulated online. She was dropped from 2 major PR contracts. One video showed her crying on Nathan's doorstep. But no one was listening anymore. The spotlight she had once craved now pinned her down with no escape. Lucia worked tirelessly for the next 48 hours. She filed a civil lawsuit with the Suffolk County Court, demanding compensation for reputational harm, emotional damage, and lost revenue at Pine Hill Veterinary Care. Every piece of evidence, USBS, videos, messages, was formally submitted. When I signed the case file, Lucia said, They can run from love, but not from the law. At the same time, something moved me far more. Mrs. Ellie, a 68-year-old client who once brought in her heartsick dog, Buddy, wrote an open letter to the Boston Herald. If Dr. Melissa had ever done wrong, I wouldn't still have Buddy beside me. She saved him and restored my faith in people. The letter spread faster than the scandal. Old clients returned, sending flowers and letters of support. Pine Hill's doors reopened after 2 weeks, its lights burning bright again. Every thank you card was a patch mending the trust that Franklin and Winter tried to tear apart. That afternoon, Franklin showed up outside my hotel. His shirt was wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes, clutching a bouquet of white roses. He stood in silence for a moment, then spoke with a trembling voice. I've lost everything, Melissa. My job, my name, all of it. I know I deserve this. But please, forgive me. I don't want it to end like this. I looked at him for a long time. In that moment, I no longer saw the man who had hurt me, just a lost soul begging to be rescued. I answered, softly but firmly, Franklin, I'm done healing anyone but myself. He froze, lips parting to say something more. But I quietly closed the door. No screams, no scenes, only silence. The silence of finality. The next day, I went to Lucia's office and signed the divorce papers. Ink seeped into the white page, slowly marking the end of 8 years together. When I finished, Lucia asked, Any final words you'd like me to include? I smiled. No. I think he's heard enough that afternoon, I returned to our old home. It was quiet, eerily tidy. I took down our wedding photo, packed it with a few keepsakes. When I locked the door, I didn't look back. Outside, autumn sunlight spilled gold across the sidewalk. I walked away, unburdened, like someone finally unchained. There was no triumphant victory, only the dignified stillness I had reclaimed after 8 long years of loss. 6 months had passed since that night at the Grand Ivy. Spring had come to Boston, and the trees lining Beacon Hill had begun to bud. I sat in the small office of Pine Hill Veterinary Care, watching sunlight stream through the windows, casting warm beams over the wall of photos, portraits of cats and dogs we'd saved. Life was strangely peaceful now, but beneath it, I knew the wheel of karma still turned, slowly and precisely. Franklin lost his job 3 months after the party. The internal investigation revealed he'd signed multiple invalid insurance contracts using client information for personal gain. The company issued a termination notice and demanded reimbursement for damages. Those who once called him a model man now avoided his gaze on the street. I heard he'd moved back in with his parents in Salem, hiding from the eyes of the world. A man who once believed he was above morality now had to bow before the very rules he used to dismiss. Winter, on the other hand, fell into a cycle she might never escape. She began dating a businessman in New York, 15 years her senior, married. The media speculated, then broke the story. He had betrayed her, too. Headlines called her the woman who always seeks love in the wrong place. I read it not with schadenfreude, but with sadness. Perhaps her wounds had never truly healed, and sometimes you don't need to punish someone, because they've already done that to themselves. Nathan's path was different. He won the divorce case, gaining custody of his 6-year-old daughter, Amelie. One warm summer afternoon, he called me. His voice was calm and gentle. "Amelie's learning to draw. She said she wants to draw you, the woman who saved her dad from silence. Thank you, Melissa, for choosing truth over hate." I smiled, eyes stinging. "I didn't save you, Nathan." The truth saved both of us. As for me, I'm still here, in this small clinic nestled under tree-lined streets of Brookline. But Pine Hill Veterinary Care is no longer just a clinic. I've started a small weekend training program for vet students and volunteers called Ethics and Compassion in Veterinary Practice. I teach them not just how to save lives, but how to keep their hearts from growing numb in the face of ingratitude. I tell them, no one can truly hurt you if you're grateful for having seen their true face. After every class, I go to the backyard, where there stands a small statue of a Labrador named Max, the first animal I ever saved. Under it, I had inscribed, "Loyalty never betrays. Only humans forget." As I water the flowers around that statue, a quiet peace seeps in. I'm no longer the woman who was betrayed. I'm the woman who chose to walk away from the cycle of pain. Somewhere out there, Franklin and Winter are paying for what they did. But I don't think of them much anymore. I think of the morning light through my windows, the patter of small paws across the floors, and the relief of knowing this. I won, not through revenge, but through compassion and freedom. A year later, I sold part of my shares in Pine Hill Veterinary Care to found the Paw Hearts Foundation, a rescue fund for abandoned pets and underprivileged children who love animals. I wanted to spend the rest of my life healing, not just myself, but the fragile beings who needed a gentle hand. My first field mission took me to South America, to a small suburb of Venezuela. There, children lived in tin-roofed wooden homes, clutching skinny dogs like they were their whole world. I worked with a team of volunteers to set up a temporary animal shelter and teach the children how to care for their companions. One hot afternoon, while handing out disinfectants, I heard a faint sound from behind a pile of trash. A tiny, dust-covered kitten peeked out, trembling, with round gray eyes staring up at me. I picked it up, brushed off the grime, gently touched the wound on its paw. It nuzzled into my palm and let out a soft purr. I smiled, an abandoned soul, looking for something to believe in. In its eyes, I saw myself a year ago, wounded, cast aside, yet still believing in kindness. I named it Chance, for its second chance. That evening, during our volunteer team dinner, an American man named Michael Rivers, part of the medical group, handed me a small roadside bouquet. Nothing fancy, just wild daisies wrapped in brown paper. He smiled. These were the first flowers to bloom after yesterday's storm. I thought you should have them. I accepted them with a quiet smile. Not a promise, not a beginning, just the peace of two strangers sharing a moment of light in a foreign land. One evening in Venezuela, as the electricity went out, I sat alone in a small wooden cabin, lit only by the flickering glow of a candle and the soft sound of rain falling on the tin roof outside. I opened the old wooden box I had brought from Boston. Inside was a letter I had written to myself on the very first night after leaving Franklin. The paper had yellowed, the folds worn and familiar, but the words remained sharp and unblurred. If someone says they'd rather kiss a dog than kiss you, thank them, because they just gave you your freedom. I read it again and smiled, not with the bitterness of past wounds, but with the quiet recognition of a woman who had come to understand. Freedom doesn't mean leaving someone, it means knowing when something no longer deserves a place in your life. I folded the letter gently and held it over the candle flame. The paper caught fire, its words curling, fading, dissolving into smoke that floated out through the open window. It wasn't an act of resentment, nor regret. It was simply a final farewell to the version of me that once stayed too long. When the flame went out, I looked up and saw Chance, the little gray kitten, curled peacefully at my feet, and I listened to the soft rhythm of the rain above. And in that quiet moment, I knew with absolute clarity I had finally, truly healed. One early morning, I drove my old Jeep down a coastal road in Venezuela, the horizon glowing with the golden shimmer of sunrise spilling over the ocean. The wind tangled my hair as I drove, and beside me, Chance lay curled on the passenger seat, his soft eyes turned toward me in quiet trust. I turned on the radio, and a classic Fleetwood Mac song played, a melody that seemed made for those who had been broken, but had never let their hope die. In the calm, I spoke in voiceover, steady and serene. Betrayal didn't destroy me. It taught me who to trust, and when to let go. I pulled the Jeep to a stop by the beach, stepped out, and let my bare feet sink into the cool tide lapping at the shore. In front of me, the sun was descending into the sea. Not an ending, but a gentle, golden beginning of something freer. I lifted Chance into my arms, and he nestled into my chest, purring quietly into the sea breeze. That image, a woman holding a rescued soul under a setting sun, between the vast ocean and the open sky, became the final symbol of my journey. Kindness, unbroken by betrayal, still intact despite everything. The screen slowly darkened. The Paw Hearts Foundation logo appeared, followed by the words, "Healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over pain." The sound of waves continued in the background, merging with the soft closing melody, a gentle reminder that sometimes the most powerful revenge is to live with grace, to live with light, and to never let darkness reach your heart again. If this story touched you, please like, subscribe, and share it, so that more women are reminded every pain can find its way to the light. Thank you for listening to Melissa's story, the woman who chose truth over hate and compassion over vengeance.